Hey, what's up YouTube? This is We All Juggle Knives. Welcome to my second video on this knife, the Extrema Ratio T-Razor, made in Italy. Alright, the steel on this is N690. It is a liner lock. It has a whole old-time straight razor theme. Alright, and as I talk about this, you can just feast your eyes on the T-Razor. So what happened to my first video? I decided to break up my first video into two different videos because my first video had a really cool rant about tactical knives at the end of the video, but after listening to it a few times, it didn't really make sense to just tack that on at the end of a video. That rant about tactical knives, that needs to be its own video itself so people can look it up and find it if they want that discussion. So that'll be its own video, and this video is just the T-Razor and two other Extrema ratios. Oh, and we're also going to talk about some issues that you guys raised in the comments section. For one thing, billboarding. If you don't know what billboarding refers to regarding knives, stay tuned. I will explain and I will give my opinions on the billboarding. Alright, but Extrema Ratio makes some very high quality items. This, for example, it's basically kind of their version of a USMC K-bar. It's not a copy, it's more of a tribute, and you know, there's a lot of knives based on the K-bar. It's iconic. All right, but this, I believe they called this their Mark 2.1, at least when I bought it. All right, so I've owned two Extrema Ratios before the T-Razor, right? And the T-Razor was sent to me by Extrema Ratio. And thank you very much for doing so. Some people get offended if a company gives you a knife. Well, all I can say is buckle up, because you're about to be more offended, because I am definitely not the only person that they have sent a knife to. They do most of their sales in the EU, but they're trying to break into the US market. So this is a whole big corporate policy, corporate move. So if you subscribe to big knife channels, you're going to be seeing more Extrema Ratio. So if you want to get offended by that, knock yourself out. Now this is the Extrema Ratio Dark Talon folder, and notice how the handle on this is quite similar to that of the T-Razor, but definitely a different opener or openers, the dual thumb studs, as opposed to on the straight razor or the T-Razor, which is reminiscent of a straight razor. I definitely prefer the thumb studs on this. And as you can see from the blade shape there, this is designed to have a lot of slashing and a lot of piercing ability. Extrema Ratio makes a lot of military theme or combat themed items, and they actually sell some of their blades to various military units in European countries, right? So they're not trying to pretend. They actually sell to operators. Now the steel on this N690, that is made by an Austrian company, and it is quite popular on Italian-made knives. I have numerous knives from Fox Knives Italy, as well as a Blade Tech Profili, that are of that steel. I'm very experienced with that steel. Alright, but let's talk about this funky opening mechanism. Yeah, you see it there. Wow. You know, it's kind of awkward to use, especially in comparison to an index flipper. And you know, my subscribers were saying, oh, it's supposed to be, like, remind you of a straight razor. Yeah, I mean, obviously. But I thought, maybe I'm just suspicious. I have a suspicious mind, but I thought they might have some ulterior motive. You know, like maybe it's legal in more places. But a few people said, no, it's just purely cosmetic to remind you of a straight razor. Really? Okay, I gotta say, if that's true, then I really think they should have just put a normal index flipper. Like, if it's not some legal issue with different countries not liking that, I really don't think that it's worth it, you know, just to continue the theme, because the hollow grind and the blade shape, to me, are already sufficient to establish the theme. And this is kind of an inefficient opening mechanism. Okay, little initial sharpness demo. This thing was ungodly sharp, and I'll just be quiet and let you listen. Look how thin those are. This was actually sharper than like my Microtech knives, which are quite sharp if you know Microtech. All right, and I had to cut that clip short because there was a minute or two or 3 or 4 or 5 more of me doing that just because it was so fun to get a knife that's just this sharp. Like I said, sharper than my Microtech folders, which if you've ever had one of those, not the OTFs, I got folders. They're sharp, but this thing, it's just, they did an excellent job. And also, it's very thin, and it has the hollow grind, to fit the theme, but it's also just makes it so thin that the thing is a crazy slicer. Back to the family portrait. All right, so back to that steel, N690. How much do I like or dislike that steel? I like it about as much as S30V in terms of what I'm willing to pay for a knife that is of that steel. And as I said, I have many knives from Fox Knives Italy that are of that steel, and I have a pretty good grasp of like what is considered overpricing and what's okay in the knife market, and basically I'm willing to pay about the same as for S30V. All right, let's tackle the billboarding issue. What is billboarding? Well, when people say a knife has too much billboarding, what they're saying is that there's too much writing on the knife. Right, and so for example, you see how it says Extrema ratio in quite huge letters. All right, my opinion on billboarding. What do I think is useful to have written on a knife? There's 4 things, right? The date of manufacture is useful because Emerson's have the date of manufacture, and it's really useful when you're buying something used to know exactly when it was made. So yeah, the date of manufacture, but in fairly small print. The designer of the knife, their maker's mark or their initials. That's cool. The company, either the company's logo, like say the Spyderco spider, a lot of people call it a tick, or the Benchmade butterfly, or the initials of the company, such as CRKT. I'm fine with that. All right, and the steel. The steel is important, especially, again, if you're buying a knife that's used, you want to know the steel. Right, so that's 4 pieces of information that I find useful to be written on the blade. So that would be 2 pieces of info on each side. But you don't have to make them huge. You can make them fairly unobtrusive. Right, so this has large letters, T-razor, Extrema ratio. Why do they do that? I don't really know. It might, I think they want it big and bold. I know Blackhawk pretty much uses big font too. Maybe the military guys want something that's yelling at them. No, I don't know. But yeah, if they reduce the size of that, it would be fine. It might even improve sales. So I definitely don't think it's necessary to have the letters be that large, although it doesn't really offend me. Oh, and as for the name of the knife, you don't have to write that on the blade. You could write that on some other part of the knife. All right, next huge issue that was brought up, the price. The price at Knife Center is about $235. The argument against expensive knives goes something like this. A knife is a tool. Its purpose is to cut stuff, quote, end quote. So if its purpose is to just cut stuff, why do you ever need one that's more than $50 or more than $100 or more than $200 since, you could find a $25 knife that can, quote, cut stuff? Well, by that logic, then the entire top half of the knife market just shouldn't exist, like according to those people. There should just be no Pricey Spydercos, no Benchmades, no Microtechs, no Emersons, no Almar, no Sabenza, no Strider, no Hinderer. Well, I don't think that is correct because I just think we're all enriched by the market having such a wide spectrum. It's the same with any expensive thing. I don't own a Rolls Royce, but I would never say that they shouldn't exist or that no one should ever purchase one. So there's nothing wrong with expensive stuff or people who can afford it. That being said, there is a point of diminishing returns that I've covered this before. You end up paying more and more and more for tinier and tinier little improvements that your average person wouldn't even care about. All right, so you have to decide when that point of diminishing returns, puts you out of the market at that point. If you do hate expensive knives, you're kind of preaching to the choir in a sense. I mean, I don't hate them, but 70% of my videos are budget-friendly items. So if you hate expensive stuff, you probably should subscribe to me because, this channel is the best friend of people on a budget, but that doesn't mean I'll never show something that's pricey and just darn cool. And last thing I want to cover, this is a collectible knife by price alone, but it also has a weapon theme. So how would it be as a weapon? Well, with Martial blades, you've got the piercing school of thought, and then you've got kind of the close cutting school of thought. So, you got daggers on one hand and like karambits epitomizing the other, the close cutting. In the close cutting school of thought, you precisely cut vital things that your enemy, your attacker, would need to continue the attack, such as blood vessels, airways, tendons, ligaments. So this would be in the close cutting school of just martial theory, and it would be excellent at that. Now, me personally, I actually subscribe to the piercing school of thought more. However, I could certainly use this, and of course I prefer a fixed blade, but if a folder is all you gotta do what you gotta do. And one other thing I gotta mention, you see how it says "We all juggle knives" on the blade? I didn't have that done. Extrema Ratio actually put that on. It was a surprise. I didn't know they were gonna do that, and they wanted me to mention that they have a new service where they can engrave whatever you want engraved. If you want a gift, give a gift, you can have it engraved on your Extrema Ratio knife. And some of my subscribers, see, this is why I love you guys. My subscribers thought of all kinds of funny things that could be engraved on the knife, such as whoever's looking at this knife, and then insert your insult of choice. So that's funny. Yeah, so yeah, you can think up more jokes like that. I don't know. If I had to pick something, I'd use Billy the Kid's slogan, "I'll make you famous." All right, so those are my thoughts on this. Tone down the billboarding, and if there's no legal issue involved, I would like an index flipper, faster, more efficient. They want some advice on their products. That's my honest advice. I hope you enjoy the video. I'll include some links to evil Martial blades on Amazon in the text description box. Those do help the channel. This has been We All Juggle Knives. I'm out.